Hello guys, just a quick disclaimer before we get going. I said in the video that I was going to put the pictures of what I'm talking about while I'm talking about them, but unfortunately I got in quite late today. I need to edit the video and get it out. That takes a surprising amount of time to match up the pictures to the images, so I'm just going to do a slideshow of the different products. So apologies for that, but I imagine there'll probably be about 20-25 pictures, and I'll just put them on a loop. So once you've seen them all, if you're painting or doing whatever, then it'll just be the same images repeated again. So apologies for that, but if I tried to get the pictures to match up with the what I'm saying, I'd probably be looking at releasing this tomorrow, and I really want to get the video out today. Hey hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is the second time I recorded this, because the first time the microphone wasn't plugged in properly. So there you go. So welcome back to the channel. And today, well, this wasn't a video that I was planning on doing. In fact, I was kind of actively avoiding doing it. But I've had a few messages from people, and they've asked me, would I cover the Warlord Epic Battles release? So for those of you who don't know, Warlord Games do a, well, I guess now it's a range of smaller figures. They are 12.5mm tall. Now, I'm told that's 1/4 scale. I don't know how true that is, but that is what I am told. So they're 12.5mm, and they are for Napoleonics. Now, they've started off, they've released a number of bundles, and they're all for the Waterloo set. And I wanted to talk a little bit about them. What does it mean for wargaming going forward? And something that I want to quickly cover off on is the community's reaction to the release. So the first thing is, let's have a quick look at the products that they have announced. So I should say Epic Battles is a system, as I say, of small models. Now, for the American Civil War, which was the first set that they did, that was really good because it meant that you could use the same figures for both sides. It's actually why the Perrys released their first ever plastic set was American Civil War, and it was for this very reason. Now, for the American Civil War, there is a starter box set. I think it's about £100, and that gives you enough models for both sides, a little bit of scenery, and some rules in there as well. So that's like a starter box that, if you're familiar with Games Workshop, then you'll understand what that is. Oh, I mean, Warlord do them as well for Bolt Action, and of course Black Powder, they do a Waterloo set. But they don't have that for this one. Instead, for about £90, they have a French starter set or a British starter set. So you would need to buy both of those to play, or, you and a mate buy one each. And this is partly because, obviously, the uniforms are different. A French uniform is different from a British uniform. Unlike the American Civil War, where the changes are basically what colour you paint them, in Napoleonics, they are markedly different. So I can understand why they've gone for a different approach here. I don't necessarily think it's the best approach, but I can understand why they've gone for that. I personally would have much preferred to have seen a starter box where you got, half the number of sprues that you do in, say, the British starter box, but you also got, the same number was made up, but it was made out of French. They could even do that in addition to the what I'll call the national starter sets. So I'm a little bit surprised that they did that, but there you go. Now, the figures that have been announced so far are all plastic, apart from the special edition one. So there's a really nice Sergeant Hewitt capturing the eagle. That's a really nice model. I think that's probably going to be metal. But the strips of figures, because they are cast in strips, they are all plastic. I believe that there's going to be a sprue of them on this month's Wargames Illustrated. So that might be worth checking out. And for the British, there are two different kinds of sprues. In fact, no, I think there's three different kinds of sprues. You've got light dragoons, you've got heavy dragoons, and you've got the infantry. Each one has basically a unit on them, either a unit of cavalry or a unit of infantry, as well as a gun to go with them. So with one of the cavalry, it looks like you've got some Royal Horse Artillery. That's really nice. I think that's with the, in fact, with both the cavalry, I think you get Royal Horse Artillery. And with the line, then you just get foot artillery. I have seen announcements for Highlanders and 95th Rifles to come. I don't know if they're going to be plastic or if they're going to be metal, but I would assume that they're going by the American Civil War. I'd imagine that the Highlanders will be plastic and the 95th will be metal, but don't quote me on any of those because I honestly don't know. So one of the things that I've seen most people complain about, and I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a spoiler for later on in the video, I've heard a lot of people complaining about this. One of the big complaints I've heard is that it doesn't fit in with any of the existing ranges. So for instance, AB, who do absolutely phenomenal models, they're 18mm, or you've got a company like Pendragon who do 10mm, Bacchus of course do 6mm. So they are, I've heard it referred to as a proprietary scale. So that means that they're the only ones who do it. So if you want to buy models that match that scale, then you're going to have to buy Warlord. Now, I can see where they're coming from. I also think it's quite frankly, I think it's a little bit silly. The reason I think it's silly is twofold. Firstly, we now live in a world of 3D printers. If you have, so I've recently backed the Kickstarter for the Duchy of Warsaw army. When I get to my printer, I can print that at any scale I want. I can print them at 12.5mm. I can do them at 125mm if I want to. I can print them at my own scale. And as that continues more and more, this idea of having a proprietary brand, it is more and more meaningless. So I don't actually think that's why they're doing it. Also, there's going to be gaps in the market. Of course there is. Even if Warlord were committed to bringing out all the different uniforms, I don't think they are, but say they were, someone's going to come along and say, well, I'm going to do 12.5mm Spanish, or Dutch militia, if we're going to carry on with the Waterloo theme. Or I'm going to do the Prussians in plastic. They've not been announced yet. I'm sure they'll be coming, but they haven't been announced yet. So to say that it's a proprietary scale is true to an extent, but for how long? I think if that's what Warlord have based their sales model on going forward, well, we're the only ones who produce this scale, so everyone's going to have to buy it, then quite frankly, they're being pretty stupid. Because if that becomes a very popular scale, then there will be other companies that appear or adapt to meet the gaps in the market. So while yes, at the moment, your existing figures may not match this new scale of Warlord, well, you know, it won't be long until other companies do, if it's successful. Now, one of the keys to making it a success was, of course, the setting. Now, they've set it at Waterloo. I've done two videos on, one video on why I think Waterloo's great, and one video on why I think Waterloo's not very good. And to be honest, I'm not going to go over them because all the arguments for and against having it at the Battle of Waterloo are there. If you have seen the video, or you know you're going to go and see it, then I'll let you know. Basically, all the reasons why Waterloo is good for the hobby are they are the commercial reasons. And again, I've heard a lot of complaints about, oh, it's Waterloo again. Why didn't they do the Danube campaign of 1809? I mean, seriously? I mean, really? Yeah, I mean, you know, some people, they've got their own little pet projects. Oh, yeah, I would have loved to have seen the starter set be the Battle of Maida. Right, okay. So, people have their own pet projects, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to expect large scale, and you know, a whole new release, a new idea to be in the scale that you and your three friends like, I think, to be honest, again, I'm going to say it's just a little bit silly. It's actually a little bit childish, I think. And I see those criticisms. And don't get me wrong, I am absolutely do not have a problem with criticizing Warlord where they warrant it. And believe me, I think they warrant it quite regularly. But in this case, I mean, it's just silly. I'm putting it as politely as I can there because, you know, there's no point in sort of getting worked up about it. But just the idea of, you know, I mean, I'd love to see 1805. I'd love to see 1809, even the Peninsular War, something like that. But to say, like, oh, I can't believe it's Waterloo, just, I mean, yeah, well, anyway, I've done two videos on them. Go and check those out. One of the reasons that I do like the smaller scale, now, as you know, I am an avowed 20mm player, although I do have 50mm armies, and I have played in 6mm. I will play in literally any mill that someone wants to give me a game, if I'm honest. But this channel will be sticking with 28mm. I did consider perhaps, you know, moving out to the new scale as well. I'm not going to lie. But I think we're going to stick with 28mm because that's what people have signed up for. That's what the channel starts off as. And to be honest, I've got way, way, way too many 28mm to throw them all out for the limited scope of the 12.5mm because it is currently only Waterloo. So I am going to stick with 28mm, but I do think that the smaller scale does have some benefits, and one of them is if you have limited space, if you're playing on what is a traditionally sized wargaming table of 6 foot by 4 foot, I don't know what that is in centimeters, then you are limited to what you can do with 28mm. I did a battle report with General Dad where we used the starter armies, and through keeping units off the board and introducing them as other units got recycled, we just about managed to get our 200-pound armies on a 6x4, but we did have to reduce all the Rangers by half. So that will allow you to play, full-size black powder games. I say full-size, you know what I mean? Full-size black powder games on a normal-sized table. There will be some adjustments need to be made. So instead of having inches, I'd swap to centimeters. That would be the easiest thing to do. One thing that does confuse me a little bit, and it confuses me even more with American Civil War, is the size of the units. So the frontage of an American Civil War unit, which is 5 bases, is actually larger than a 28mm one if you use 18 figures. It's a little bit weird. I can't really work out why they've got such humongous units. It seems very strange. Now, in the Napoleonic one, it appears that 4 bases is going to be a unit. Even so, I would probably recommend that you use 3 bases represents a unit. And that also is a nice callback to War Master, which was the original system that Black Powder is based on. They used to have 3 bases as well. So I would go with that. It's also a 1870, the set of rules for the Franco-Prussian War. That uses 3 bases to a unit as well. Anyway, yes, I would go with 3 bases. That gives you a base left over. You can bung those together. Maybe use them as a unit without a flag, or you could always convert a couple of the musketeers to be holding some flags. So no real problem there, especially for Waterloo, because the officers are in shakos. Job is a good one. Smaller scale games, well, I say smaller scale games, playing games on a smaller table makes the Napoleonic system far more accessible. And this is going to be the crux of my support, I guess you could say, for the Epic Games system. Is I am literally into anything that increases the possibility, the availability, the ease of people getting into the Napoleonic hobby. Now, do I think that they've done a flawless job and this is the best possible way of getting into it? Absolutely not. I do not think that at all. I think there could have been very, very... I think there could be large improvements. I wouldn't say very large improvements, but something like a starter box with both sides in is an obvious one. I think being more transparent about what's coming up would be another one. It was leaked, so their hand was forced a little bit, but I would like an interview where they say the Prussians are coming eventually. I mean, the Prussians are being late, nothing new there, but I would like to see that as well. It's a period that it's a scale that I haven't bought into yet, but I can see myself buying it in the future. One of the other things that I really like about the figures as well is their availability for using them in different games. So another Napoleonic game that I really enjoy is Blucher, and that they tend to use a card represents a battalion in that. So, you buy a sprue of these and you've got yourself 3 or 4 battalions, because you only need 2 or perhaps 4 rows of troops to make yourself a battalion. One of the things that you can also do with the French is do them in like a little column of attack diorama. I'm quite excited about doing them. I might do videos on those in future. But Blucher's a great game. I had a good game with Alex from Storm of Steel. We had a good game of Blucher a long time ago now, about a year ago. But I recommend them for that as well. I don't know what rules they come with in the box. I have heard people say that it's a variation of Black Powder. I've heard other people say it is exactly Black Powder, and I've heard other people say it's not Black Powder at all. So I've got absolutely no idea what the rules in the box are, I'm afraid. But whatever the rules are, I'm sure you can adapt the figures to suit your own rules, as long as they don't have like single removal casualties or anything like that. So I think we've established by now, I am not against the system in principle. I think some people are, and I think they are not necessarily seeing the bigger picture, let's put it that way. So what about the actual specifics themselves? What have they gone for? So as I said earlier on, you've got 2 sprues of British cavalry. You've got the similar when it comes to the French as well. So let's have a look at the British first. Now, for some of these, it's actually going to be the first time that I've looked at them because I've just been so busy. I've not had chance yet. So this is this is always great with me, not having no idea what I'm talking about. So looking at the British Light Cavalry, I've never got any idea what I'm talking about. Looking at the British Light Cavalry, it would appear that there are 3 sprues in each box. I say that because there's 3 cannons. So you get 1 cannon on a sprue, so 3 cannons, 3 sprues. You get 3 regiments of light cavalry. You've got light dragoons, hussars in busbies, and hussars in shakos. I think that's fair enough, particularly for Waterloo. You've got light dragoons, tons of them running around. Hussars in busbies, I personally would use those probably as KGL, and the hussars in shako I would use as the British hussars. There's no real reason to use the ones in busbies as KGL. They wouldn't be dressed any differently to the British ones, but it just helps them stand out on the tabletop, and it gives you a bit of variation. So yeah, I don't mind at all. I think that's really good. Solid effort with that box there. I can see if you want an army, you're going to need a couple of those because even for the British light cavalry was their majority. Now for the heavy cavalry box, you get some. Again, there's 3 guns in there, so 3 sprues. And they seem to be heavier. I think they're 9-pounders, those ones. They certainly look heavier anyway. And there you get the household cavalry, the heavy dragoons, 2 lots of heavy dragoons, it looks like, and some Scots Greys. So, an interesting one. Less utility in that one, I think. You're only going to need 2 regiments of household cavalry. You're only going to need 1 regiment of Scots Greys. And the heavy dragoons, you've got, you've got use for them, but you've got 2 units there already. Now, I think there were 4 units of heavy dragoons, if I remember correctly. Now, I don't know if that includes the Scots Greys or not. I think it probably does. So you're only going to want an absolute maximum of 2 of those boxes. So, okay, fair enough. Not necessarily something that I would have had as an initial release, but, for what it is, not too bad at all. Now, one thing that I am noticing is that the sword arms, particularly on the heavy dragoons, are away from their bodies. Now, that would make me think that they are metal, but they're not. They're definitely plastic. So I wonder how easy they're going to be to get off the sprue without snapping. That's an interesting one. It's testament to their ambition to make good models there, but a little bit more dynamic models. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not amazing, but they're not AB miniatures or anything. But no, they've done a good job. Happy with them. I think they're the British cavalry. I would overall say a decent attempt of getting the British. I think they're a fairly good representation. I'm going to get the pictures up as I'm talking about these as well, by the way. I'm hoping to. So if you are painting or whatever, normally I assume that my viewers are actually just listening while they're doing something else. But I have had the pictures up while I've been talking about them. So if you want to know, and you missed them, and you'll see what's going on. So looking at the British infantry sprue, now there appears to be again 3 sprues you get in there. And you get 3 battalions of infantry. Now, it also has line infantry in there, so okay, that's fair enough. 3 bases of... So you obviously get an infantry battalion, a base of rifles, a cannon, and a brigade commander per sprue. You get 3 sprues in the box. Now, this, I think, is a really good deal here. The 9-pounders are nice, they're good. The brigade commanders are quite nice as well. Would it be nice to have maybe brigade commanders in with the cavalry as well? You could have then maybe had a bit of a swapsy and had some ADCs and things like that. Would be quite nice, but again, there's a potential for some head swaps there, so not necessarily the end of the world. The rifles, I'll come back to those guys in a second. The line, really, really like the line. I think they look absolutely fantastic. Very happy with them. I really like there's one guy who is he's holding the lock on his musket. He's got his arm across his body. He's really, really nice. Now, looking on the site as well, it appears you get a bunch of flags for them as well, which is really, really good as well. I think it seems to include some KGL ones or some German ones. There's like a tree with a house. It's a bit weird. I don't know what that one is. A Prussian-looking iron cross. So I don't know what they are. I can't really read them on my screen. I'll have to check those another time. I'm just seeing if the Kingos are there. 5, 6. Can't see them, but they might be. It might just be off the bottom of my screen. So you get flags included as well. Now it looks like you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. So yes, 40 flags in that sheet there. So you're certainly not running out of those anytime soon. I mean, realistically, 25 quid. So that's a box of, well, it's a box of Victrix. It's a box and a bit of, say, the Perrys or the Warlord figures. And for that, you get a brigade. So that makes me think, if I was collecting armies for this, instead of having a battalion as my unit, I'd be looking to have brigades as my units. And that, I think, is really, really cool. Really, really happy with that. Now, one thing that may be a little bit strange to people is the 95th Rifles. They've done strips of those, the same as the line infantry, so they're all shoulder to shoulder, instead of their more traditional skirmishing role. Now, at Waterloo, they actually did fight in battalions. Anyone who's seen my video on the Great Game will know that how deadly rifles in full battalions like that can be. So that's a great representation of them. There's slightly less of them than there is in the line because you don't get command with them. That's absolutely fine. Really, really like that. No, I think that's really good. I have made the mistake. I've made the mistake of going through these now because I'm looking at them like, I could pick up a box of them. What I would recommend is with the brigade commanders. Now, you're not going to need 3 per brigade. So you could either use one as a mounted officer for a line battalion. It could be quite nice. Or I would be tempted, if I had some of those light cavalry, I'd be tempted to cut one of the heads off, or possibly even just swap them in and out, get a Busby guy, he can be the ADC, and then this officer and some of the other Busby guys can go on a command base. If I was playing Black Powder and I was basing them for Black Powder, that's definitely what I would do. So that's the British covered off for now. As I say, they have teased Highlanders and Riflemen skirmishing. One of the additional extras you can get is the Sand Pit, which is famously where the 95th Rifles were in the Battle of Waterloo, so that would fit with that. But I'm not going to go through them yet because they're not released, and I don't even know if they're metal or plastic. I suspect that the skirmishing 95th are metal and the Highlanders are plastic, but I don't know, so I don't want to go into it because I don't want to give anyone any bum information. Far, far more important than that, I wanted to look at the frogs. As you know, the French are my boys, so I want to see how the French are doing. I should have said what I was looking at there were the individual brigade boxes. So from Warlord Games, they are £25 each, slightly cheaper from most third-party online retailers. But yeah, no, they are available for in a bigger set, £90, and that gets you 3 of the infantry brigades. It gives you 10 units of line infantry. It says 3 units of 95th Rifles. So if there's 3 units of 95th, I'm assuming that means, because you got 1 in a brigade, there's 3 brigades in there. You also get 1 set of heavy cavalry and 1 set of light cavalry as well. So a decent saving. Looking at the rule booklet you get in there, it does say Black Powder 2nd Edition, the Waterloo campaign. So it does look like it's going to be using the Black Powder rules. So the French are quite similar. I'm going to look at the infantry first for those. Now, they have 3 battalions of infantry all formed in march attack, which is how I like to see my Frenchmen. Very good. And you also get a skirmish screen of voltigeurs in front of them as well. So they're okay. The voltigeurs they're okay. They're a little bit static. There's only, by the looks of it, 3 posers, possibly 4. So once you bunch them all up, they do look a little bit silly, all doing the dance. But yeah, whatever, it's okay. The brigade commanders, again, they're not shocking. They're okay. So yeah, no, French infantry, I like to see it. Again, you get an absolute ton of flags in the box, which is always good to see. Those of you who see my start collecting videos, well, it's surprising how much the flags add up, how much more you can get in your army when you don't have to buy the extra flags. So I certainly appreciate that. Looking at the light cavalry, you've got, once again, they've got 3 different types of units in there. It's a bit of an unusual one. They've gone for chasseurs and hussars, so very similar to the British. They have the light dragoons, those chasseurs, and they've got the 2 lots of hussars. And the French have also got lancers as well. Now, the lancers, I think, are really, really nice. I really like the lancer models, actually. For these, they've gone with the pink ones on the box art, because always, if you have a choice to go for pink facings, always go for the pink facings. That is my motto in life. And they also come with the 3 French horse artillery guns at the bottom as well. So again, really nice. A lack of brigade commanders for the cavalry. It's a bit of a shame because they were obviously very flamboyant, those ones. But yeah, I mean, okay. It's a shame that you only get you get fewer hussars than you do chasseurs. So, I mean, I recommend that you only use 3 bases to a unit anyway, so it doesn't necessarily mean the end of the world, but it's a shame. I assume it's to do with a sprue layout, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It's just a bit of a shame that you get stiffed on the hussars there, but it like I say, it is what it is. I assume the extra base of hussars has had to make way for the cannon. Now, as you may know, when it comes to my French cavalry, I am a heavies boy all the way. I love me some heavies. So we've got the cuirassiers, the carabiniers, the dragoons, and some horse artillery in with those. Now, as with the British heavy cavalry, you had the household cavalry in there, which is cool. I really like those. In this one, you get the carabiniers. They're sort of the equivalent. Now, the problem is, there's only 2 regiments of carabiniers. So that does rather limit how much use you can get out of this box. Now, for me, one of the iconic things of Waterloo is the cuirassier charge. So you should get tons and tons of cuirassiers. Now, dragoons, they did have dragoons in the Waterloo campaign, but they didn't really use them. Yeah, it's a weird one that they've added the dragoons. I would have probably saved them for a separate sprue if we did the Peninsular War, especially given that you only get 3 bases worth of them in here. As I said, not necessarily the end of the world, because I'd only go for 3 bases in a unit anyway. Unfortunately, with the carabiniers, because they are quite different from the cuirassiers, you're not necessarily going to be able to use too many of these boxes. My recommendation would actually be to, if you wanted to stick down the Waterloo route, buy 3 or 4 of these boxes, chop off the heads of the carabiniers, glue the dragoon heads on them. You have to cut them off the dragoons as well. That's going to be a very, very expensive way of doing it, because you're going to be paying basically 25 quid for 2 units of cuirassiers. So, you know, you pay your money, you take your choice really on that one. Sorry, I should explain a little bit more. I say that because the carabinier helmets are I call them fireman helmets. They've got the caterpillar plume on them, whereas the cuirassiers and dragoons, they have the Grecian style helmet. So yeah, they are of limited use, I'm afraid, the carabiniers. I did do a video on maxing your minis where I looked at different ideas for carabiniers, but none of those units would have been at Waterloo. So if you're sticking with Waterloo, they are of limited use, I'm afraid. They're really nice, don't get me wrong. They're great models. I like how the officer and the standard bearer, well, and a couple of the troopers actually, are slightly looking over to the side. Again, it just gives them a little bit more movement. The swords are modelled next to the horses' heads, so that means that they'll be quite nice and sturdy there. So yeah, no, it's a nice set, but the inclusion of carabiniers makes it a little less useful. What else could they have put on there instead? To be honest, I don't really know. When you think of heavy cavalry, I mean, if I said, they could have added some guard cavalry, well, you'd have the same problem with the carabiniers. How many grenadier cheval do you need, or something like that? So it's tough. I can see why they did it. I personally would rather they had released carabiniers separately as metals, if necessary, and you got 2 lots of cuirassiers in there. That would have been my choice. But you know, it's we get what we get. It's not the end of the world. It's a nice set. It's fine. It's fine. They also do scenery for it as well. They do Le Haisson and Hougomont. Both really nice. From what I'm told, again, don't quote me on this, they are scaled down versions of, I want to say, Sarissa's 28mm versions. So again, I mean, absolutely nothing wrong with them. I think they look really nice. Hougomont is going to be, it haunts me in my dreams to this day. But Hougomont in particular is quite nice. I mean, it's absolutely massive. So having it in this scale makes it far more doable. I'd still say that if you're going to do the attack on Hougomont, that needs to be the whole battle, basically. You're just fighting that one part of the Battle of Waterloo. But yeah, no, that's cool. And they, as I say, they do like the sand pit and things like that. There's some roads and rivers, just general stuff. Now, quickly, I want to cover off, because that's pretty much the end of it now. They do a mega bundle that's £508. I've definitely not gone for one of those. They also do a set with limited edition models. So I'll quickly look at the limited edition models. They are Sergeant Hewitt, and they are Lieutenant Lagros, the Enforcer with his axe. So, nice figures, yeah, they're really good. If anyone's got them and they don't need them, yeah, feel free to send them to me. I really like in the Lagros one, it's got the little drummer behind them, and he was the only survivor of the guys who broke into the gates of Ugamar. So, yeah, really nice. I like the Sergeant Hewitt. He's nice as well. He's capturing the Eagle of the 45th there. I don't know, those of you who are lucky enough to have seen it in Edinburgh Castle, it's still there, and it's pretty. It's pretty, yeah, good. It's emotional. I think it's safe to say. They are only available with the larger bundles. I think it's £180 for the cheapest one. That's a British set and a French set. So it's a lot of money for what is effectively 5 12mm figures. But I mean, you do get 2 armies with that as well, I suppose. But I mean, well, that's one of the things. So in conclusion, I just want to talk about like the money side of it as well. I do my £200 to start an army video. For £180, it's £20 off what I do for those videos. You're getting 2 full armies. Now, if you were to play just regular black powder with these, if you were to say, right, we're not going to change anything except we're going to have centimetres instead of inches for the measurements. In the British bundle, you've got 10 infantry battalions. You've got 10 line infantry battalions. You've also got 3 battalions of the 95th. You've got 3 regiments of heavy cavalry. You've got 3 regiments of light cavalry. You've got all artillery coming out your ears, and it's very similar with the French. So I would suggest that you've got you've got 2 full armies. So you're looking around about half the price for an army because you got the 2 there. So you're looking around £90 for a full black powder army. So you're looking at roughly half the price, and that's another barrier of entry to people getting into Napoleonics, is they think you've got to spend hundreds of pounds. Now, I hope that my videos say, look, you can have a full... I mean, in the British Peninsular War video, we had money left over, same in the French one. So, I like to think that it's not excluding people because of the cost, but that is always there. So, again, someone, for argument's sake, Dad's looking for something to do with his kid on the weekends, you can get these 2 armies, bash them together, and then by, over the Christmas period or whatever, you can have some games. One of the things that I like and I dislike, this is a bit of a love-hate relationship, is the coloured plastic that they use. So the British come in red plastic, the French come in grey plastic. It's great because it means you don't have to paint the figures. You've got them on the table. Remember, in my video on why Waterloo is good, you've got the red versus the blue. It's that simple. You can do that with this straight off the sprue. Just clip off the sprue, stick on the base, bang, there you go. You've got red versus grey. But I think painting over red plastic is always a bit of a pain in the arse. That said, looking at what the pro painter has done with them, it clearly can be done. If he was in fact sent it in red plastic, it clearly can be done. So, maybe that's just a little bit of a gripe of mine. That's not perhaps necessarily fair, but actually I say they come in grey plastic. That's my apologies. They don't. They come in blue plastic. So you've got the red and the blue straight off the bat there. So overall, I'm absolutely thrilled that Black Powder Epic Battles has come out. Mainly not because I love Warlord, not because but the more products there are for Napoleonics, the better. Having more stuff is never going to be a bad thing. If one person gets into Napoleon, well, 2 people, I guess. If 2 people get into Napoleonics in this scale because they can, then fair enough. If they wouldn't have got into it another way. By having it in this scale, for instance, AB Miniatures, phenomenal models, gorgeous. I've never been into a shop and seen an army of AB Miniatures for 90 quid. That I could just go in, pick up the box and be like, right, I've got a game on Friday, it's now Wednesday, I'm off for the rest of the week. All I've got to do is clip these bad boys out, stick them on a base, job done. Never seen that from any other manufacturer. And because it doesn't exist, that's why. AB figures may be gorgeous, they may be the best on the market, but there's no point. If you can't get hold of them, it doesn't make any difference, does it? These ones, I mean, again, I've said before many times, I'm lucky where I live in Sheffield. We have 3 Wargaming shops in addition to Games Workshop. All of those have got this either on pre-order or they've told me that they've ordered it in. So there's 3. So, you know, if I'm like, right, oh, yeah, I've got a game against General Dan next weekend, and I need to get my figures today, because at the moment I've only got 1 day off a week, so I'm in town on a Sunday, and Shop A doesn't have it, well, I've still got 2 more choices. So availability is a huge, huge thing, and not only availability, also visibility. Now, I know a lot of people have their own preferred rule sets. I know a lot of people have their own preferred scales that they will fight to the death. Unfortunately, those people aren't helping the growth of Napoleonics. I'm sorry to say it. I try and skirt around the issue where I can. I don't want to offend people. I don't want to upset people. But ultimately, the people who are saying, I don't like this, it should have been 50 mil. I don't like this, it should have been the Danube campaign. These people are not helping the hobby. These people are actively damaging the hobby. Something like Black Powder Epic Battles may not necessarily be my initial go-to. It might not be something that I leap out and buy, although having just reviewed all the sets, I might do that. Actually, no, I better not. I'm just, no, believe me, I better not. But it may be something that I look at in the future. Certainly in the new year, it might be something that I look at. We may have some battles on the channel. I'm just going to stick with the 28 mil. I'm a confirmed 28 milist, but I can definitely see myself dropping 90 quid and having, that's the army, that's all I need. I don't need to buy any more of that. I mean, famous last words, and I'm good to go. One thing that I do want to say, and this is a public service announcement / lecture, if I'm honest, is if you see people online, and I just want to say as well, how my audience in particular, if you've watched this far into the video, if you've watched 36 minutes into the video, I'm almost certain that you would never do this. But if someone is interested, you know, someone's online or they're in the local shop or come to your club or whatever and say, oh, I'm really interested in this Epic Battles, please don't say, oh, you want to be playing 18 mil or you need to play 6 mil. I'm sure you guys don't do that. If you see other people doing it, then please, you know, not in a rude way, but take that person aside and say, look, you know, oh, do you want to play Epic Battles? Let's give it a go. Ultimately, you can use the figures for whatever rule set you want. It doesn't matter. But all I'm saying is any increased availability of Napoleonics can only ever be a good thing. It's an exciting period to be in. Where Airfix started. I was talking to my dad about it, and he was saying it reminded him of the old Airfix days where you had to cut the old guard's head off and glue it onto a dragoon to make Grenadier of the Imperial Guard and things like that. And then, let's get that excitement back. Let's enjoy this new product, this new horizon in Napoleonic Wargaming. That might be overselling it a little bit, but yes, I'm sure there's going to be people out there who it's not for them. That's absolutely fine. But let's use this as an opportunity to get more people interested in what I believe is the best wargaming period out there. Let's use this as a way to get more people playing Napoleonics more often. And that's the end of my lecture. Now, I just want to give you guys a bit of pre-warning. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, so the last weekend of November. There probably won't be a video because I'm going away for my birthday. All the guys are getting together. I'm going away with General Dan and some of my other gaming buddies, and we're going away for the weekend. I'll be there all week, so there may not be anything that week. However, with it being the last weekend in November, there might be something that I pre-record. It may only be like a 5 or 10 minute video, because Wednesday the 1st of December, we'll see the return of the third annual competition, and it will be my Christmas giveaway. There's another advent calendar, so you'll be pleased to see that one, and I'll announce the details of the competition nearer the time. So it may be on the that weekend, or it'll be around then, because I'm actually away until the end of that week. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be really good. It's awesome. It's good. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good. I'm going to try and get more videos out over the Christmas period. Apologies for this one being late, and apologies for no longer doing the Wednesday videos. It's purely just because of work. But I'm hoping over the Christmas period that, weirdly, the Christmas period tends to be quite quiet for us because we're a university. Well, a lot of our work is done by the dental students. Because they're away over Christmas, we cancel a lot of the clinics. So it's actually quite quiet. So I'm hoping to be able to have a little bit more time to get some more videos done. But we'll have to see how that goes in the Christmas period. But yes, so I said it was going to be a video on the Swiss. That's to come next week, hopefully. I just wanted to do this. Someone had mentioned it to me, and well, a few people had mentioned it to me, and yeah. So I'm just rambling now. I will see you guys next Sunday, and thank you for listening this long, especially after that just bizarre ramble that I just went on. So thank you very much, and I'll see you guys next time.